We were able to grow the portfolio by about $50,000 in May. If you've been doing this for a while, you'll know that investing news will commonly say that we should sell in May and go away.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage. And the editor that let it come out is garbage.
We don't do that. We stick to our target allocations and stay the course around these parts. This strategy will find value in all market conditions over long periods of time. We'll be walking through everything that happened in the portfolio during May. I also have a few clarifications to make based on some comments that I've received on the channel lately. We're going to get into the portfolio's value by holding, all the new transactions, the dividends received in May, an update on the HODL factory, my individual stock holdings, and any future strategy changes. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Jeff Teeples, and here we aim to grow your wealth with simple, time-tested solutions. Please gently tap that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop me a comment below with anything that comes to mind, especially any ideas for format improvements on these monthly portfolio updates. We had 13 new channel members this week. A huge shout out to the 13 new members that are on the screen now, and of course, all of you that have been here all along. I really appreciate the extra support. You guys are making this possible for me. I hope you're enjoying those badges, the emotes, the nerdy spreadsheets, and the comment priority. If you're interested in joining the channel membership, I do have a link in the description below where you can join up. And I try not to push my stuff too much, you guys, because I know that gets annoying, but the goal here is to support myself after leaving my job to start doing this channel enough to not have to take a bunch of sponsorships that I don't believe in. With the channel membership, my Seeking Alpha link, and soon, big news, a portfolio visualizer affiliate link are the only things that you'll ever hear me pushing. I do get a small kickback, full disclosure, but I love Seeking Alpha and I love Portfolio Visualizer, and they're really expensive. So I try to get a link out there, just like I used to use other YouTubers' links to get you a discount on a full year of the service. I do think it's worth it, but I understand it is pretty steep. Let's grow. May Insights. Okay, everyone, gather around. We need to talk about JEPQ. I have made multiple videos about why I love JEPQ for very specific situational needs. And I'll just say it, I'm guilty of something. I feel like I make these videos and say the same things a million times, but I gotta remember, not every one of you sees every video I've made. So I need to do a better job of explaining myself a bit more each time I bring things like this up. Let's keep this brief and I'll summarize it. JEPQ is my favorite ETF for someone that needs cash flow now. It's not the highest yielding ETF for cash flow, but I do think the combination of the high yield, the low expense ratio for an actively managed fund, and the great holdings that are based on the NASDAQ 100 make it my favorite overall option for someone that needs cash flow now. Many other higher yielding ETFs will provide terrible total returns because the price tanks as the dividends are paid out. It makes the dividend yield look attractive, but we're really just slapping lipstick on a pig. And I probably confuse matters even more as a holder of JEPQ. I say it all the time, QQQM is a better long-term investment if you do not need cash flow now. So you've probably watched my videos and think, wait a minute, I thought you said... But I do stand by what I said. My unique situation did have me needing cash flow ASAP. I walked away from making $170,000 a year from a good job in finance to start this YouTube channel and basically make negative money at the beginning. I genuinely needed to pay bills with JEPQ's cash flow. Now I am a little bit more stable now, and I'll be selling the JEPQ that I bought once I've held it for a year to take advantage of those long-term capital gains, and I'll buy the better long-term investment of QQQM. Now for something more exciting. Where are my Doge Diamond Dogs at?
Yeah, okay, Diamond Dogs, mount up, let's go.
Look, you guys, this is my guilty pleasure. I love Dogecoin. It is my meme of choice, and I invest in it entirely for fun. I enjoy being a member of the Doge army. But just keep in mind, I have 0.04% of my portfolio in Dogecoin. it's basically negligible. So I should say to new investors, you probably should not be investing in crypto at all before you get a portfolio built up. And then once you're established, I would probably recommend either Bitcoin or Ethereum if you do want exposure to the crypto world. I'd say no more than 10%, probably not more than 5%, but that's up to you. And if you're an experienced investor, you know the pros and the cons, just like I do. I choose to have just under 5% in Bitcoin, but to each their own. I really wanted to clarify those two things to make sure we're heading in the right direction towards financial freedom together. One slight disadvantage of being so transparent is I show you guys everything, because I think that's really important to prove that I practice what I preach. But it does come with a couple small disclaimers, and I just wanted to get them out there. All right, let's dive into the portfolio. Portfolio overview. My wife and I have our investments in 5 primary locations. We have the majority of our funds, including all 3 of my former 401ks in E-Trade. Her current work 401k and HSA are on her work platform. We have a crypto broker that I'm in the process of moving to E-Trade. I keep my individual stocks, the HODL Factory, out there on M1 Finance. And then we have some checking and other cash, just small amounts. We'll first take a look at our E-Trade and M1 Finance situation, and then we'll look at the spreadsheet that pulls everything that I just mentioned together. And this spreadsheet's out there for the channel members. It's a simple 5-minute a week update that shows some pretty cool stats. So feel free to download a copy and make it your own. Okay, starting with E-Trade here, you can see that I'm currently showing all brokerage and bank accounts. So this is my traditional IRA, my Roth IRA, and taxable account. The taxable is almost half of this, and it's mostly SCHD and a lot of the money market as well. I just don't want to have to hide all the accounts. It's annoying for editing purposes, so we're just going to stay here on the summary screen. So you can see we still have, for now, the 650 shares of VGT at $287 per share. We have the 4,273 shares of SCHD at 72.5 per. Oh, and you can see the VGT is at 358. This is wild because these were tied recently. And the SCHD is at 334,000. And then we have our money market here, and we'll dive into the details of all cash later on the spreadsheet. Still have the same shares of JEPQ. This hasn't changed in a long time. 1,632 shares at 48.23 per. So we're carrying a gain here of $10,000 on JEPQ. Don't want to sell it yet. It's still short term, and it's worth almost $89,000. And then IBIT we've been building up weekly, and we'll get more into that in a little bit here. But I'm up to 266 shares at an average cost of $35.37, and that's with our weekly buys of around $500. And then everything from the Schwab S&P 500 fund down is my nephew's and a custodial Roth account. So once I start buying QQQM, it'll be a little annoying to account for his shares, but I'll get it done on the spreadsheet. Okay, hopping over to my most exciting investing, and that's the HODL Factory, my individual stocks. We're up to $10,771 of total account value. We're comparing the HODL Factory here, which is Hutch and my 25 stocks that we manage, versus the market, and we use VOO. So you can see we're up today, but unfortunately, when we zoom out to year to date, we are down. We're at 12.5% to the market's 12.8. So we had a couple rough ones there. It's been a tough go. When we zoom out a year, the HODL Factory is still up almost 40% to the market's 26, and all should be just different. Yeah, we've done it for just over a year. So all is 45% to the market's 32. We're still performing well since inception, but we've given up a little bit of ground. All right, now out on Seeking Alpha, we bring everything in. So here's the E-Trade you just saw, and you can see it's worth a little less because this does not include my nephew's stuff. This is strictly just my VGT, SCHD, money market, and JEPQ, all the same shares that you just saw and all the same values. The money market number will vary because there are stuff moved around. I record these videos on Tuesdays, and you're seeing a snapshot. This cash every Friday, so it's not quite real time. So there's oftentimes little discrepancies, but every like investment will be the same. And then my wife's work 401k has this S&P 500 index fund that they use. And you can see the value there at 364. She's worked the same job her whole career, unlike me who bounced around a lot. And then this is basically VUG right here, this VIGIX. And it's the HSA account, and it's at 28,700. Crypto, and this is the IBIT from E-Trade. So, technically it's an E-Trade, but I like to separate it out to crypto. So that's up to $10,289, and it's the same as we just saw in E-Trade. Now, Bitcoin, I'm finally starting the process. Wow, it's at 71.1. That's crazy. I'm finally starting the process of selling a bit of Bitcoin each week. I've been telling you guys I'm gonna get out of Bitcoin and go into the spot Bitcoin ETF, IBIT. And I had 0.78 something, and I sold it down to exactly 0.7 just for my OCD. So I sold about 4,000 something worth and transferred it over to E-Trade and made some moves there. And we'll talk about that more in June because that technically just happened. So that'll be next month's update. There's actually gonna be a lot of big updates next month, so stay tuned for the June recap. What I'm planning on doing is selling 0.03 Bitcoin from my crypto exchange and then moving it over and buying some IBIT and then feathering it into our normal mix as well. So I'm slowly exiting this position and adding to this position. And then Doge, my kryptonite, hashtag Doge Army, you know what it is. It's sitting at $506. So I'm just gonna confess, I'm probably going to sprinkle a little more money into Dogecoin. I really wanna get even lifetime. It's just a dorky little goal. Again, I'll never have a significant position, but I just love Doge. And the HODL factory is right here, and we just saw it out on M1 Finance. The cool thing is I'll soon be able to show a lot more detail about this. That'll be coming next month in the update, so stay tuned. But I'm still building it, it's still pretty small. And then checking and other cash and random stuff, I won't explain this one, but it's basically almost 14,000. It's time to bring it all together. I'm out here on the portfolio tracker, which the members have access to put in your own information, save a copy, make it your own, and you'll be able to see when I update mine every week if you'd like as well, because I update this real time out there on the member server. So I'm starting on the portfolio tab. This is just pulling everything in from Seeking Alpha. You'll notice the total's a lot less. So this is as of Friday. The market's gone bonkers. I'm up to 1.37 something in Seeking Alpha, the one we were just looking at. But it's the same amount of shares. The market's just gone up since I took the snapshot. I do one per Friday. So you can see all the holdings. That's the wife's 401k. I use VU. Technically, it's a different ticker. It's actually a closed-ended fund. It's not even the ticker I use on the tracker, but I just have to use that to make it accurate. And then BGT, SCHD, we won't go through all these. It's just bringing them from all the sources and putting them in here. So there we are. I use this pivot table to show how we're allocated right now. So right now we have a pretty good mix between VU, VGT, and SCHD, which I like to do. If you've seen a lot of my videos, our cash is a little light at 9.7%, but I'm okay with that. I try to keep it at 10 for my target allocations to auto buy the dip. If this gets above 10, it means everything else went down, so I deploy cash to get it back down to 10%. So I buy more of these at a discount. And then that JEPQ I'm holding on, it sort of counts as cash flow. You can see here. I don't count it as cash, but I don't count it as like my core investments. It's a temporary cash flow play. And then IBIT, of course, is crypto. And this does include the Dogecoin, this small slice of Doge. I just, I don't want to muddy the waters too much. This is that VUG equivalent. And then here's the HODL factory. So I'd like to get the HODL up to at least 5%. This I don't really care because it's the HSA, I don't control it. IBIT, I want to keep between 2 and 5%. We'll talk more about that once I'm fully transitioned. I do have a specific battle plan. JEPQ will be gone soon in favor of QQQM, which is going to be combined with VGT to keep it even with SCHD and VU. So VGT will actually be lower because I'll also have a big chunk of QQQM to ultimately keep the growth at about where it is now. I like these about the same or within a couple percent each. Value is SCHD and then growth right now is VGT and VIGIX, and then everything else has its own category. So yeah, we're pretty well allocated. No crazy moves needed, but crazy moves coming. So if we look at our snapshots, we did not hit an all-time high on my last update here on 5/31. However, the week before we did, The last video was here. So since my last update, we're up, let's see, we have a sum here. We're up almost 50,000 since the last video. And I always show this, but you can see we weren't always hitting all-time highs here. So we've had some rough times too. We just stay the course. But ultimately, we didn't quite hit the all-time high this week. Although, as you saw, unless something crazy happens in the next couple days, this next one will very likely be an all-time high, but you know, anything can happen. So we take these snapshots, this auto updates, and even if you do it daily or weekly or monthly here, this right here will just show the monthly average account value, regardless of how many updates you have. And you can see we are at an all-time high, I believe. 1.343 was the average update in May. It's definitely higher than that one. Yes, sir. We're at an all-time account average high for the month. So this is just kind of cool to see how you progress over time. Let's see where all the money went in May. Portfolio contributions. We max my wife's 401k and HSA out every single year, and this comes directly from her paycheck. And then the rest of her paycheck, along with some help from our JEPQ cash flow and our money market VMFXX, will pay most of our bills. And we recently started investing my YouTube money into M1 Finance to bolster the HODL factory a little bit. I did make a little less. It's down to about $1,000 a month. It was $1,500 the month before. This will go up and down a little bit, but it's kind of fun to see that little bit of YouTube money flowing in. Let's check out all the transactions for May. May was a pretty simple month when it comes to transactions. I continued feeding that $350 a week into the HODL factory. There were 4 of them, just how the days of the month fell, for $1,400. And this is YouTube money. And then I continued to invest weekly into IBIT, about $500 a week. You see my average cost was $37 per share. I bought 60 shares for a total of $22.50. And this money comes from my money market, and now it's going to start coming from my online crypto broker. So this is not new money. This is me shuffling things around slowly over time. So not a ton to talk about. I did want to show the first couple months of the year because I never did cover that, and I retroactively did this just for full transparency starting in 2024. So you're going to see SCHD has a huge purchase in January, and this was the last of my 3 401ks that I rolled over from my former employer. So this is a one-time thing, not new money. This is my smallest ever, but one of my 3 401ks. Bought 825 shares of SCHD, and that's just because VGT was so much higher at the time. And then I started buying IBIT there, and JEPQ. Apparently I bought 15 shares in 2024, which I wasn't aware of until right now. Most of them I bought in late 23. But if we look at the second month of the year, HODL Factory got his first 25 bucks. I was funding it, and then I paused it for a while because of the no income thing. IBIT, I had started in January, that one, and then I continued that 500 a week, not new money. And SCHD, I think I reinvested a dividend of some sort, probably JEPQs or something I didn't need to pay bills that month. And then this one I've showed on the channel before. It's when we ramp things up. I just wanted to add the whole year, so as time goes, we can look and zoom out. And again, this is really skewed because of the one big rollover, but I did get 849 new shares of SCHD this year. JEPQ has 15 shares, which will eventually be gone. And then we're building our IBIT, and then the HODL factory's been funded with 37.75. So it's just kind of fun to see the total picture. Dividends received. Let's hop over to the dividend spreadsheet to see how May cash flowed. Our dividends in May were $1,217 compared to $287 the year before. Now, if we do the drop down here, let's look at a little more detail. Last year, we didn't have JEPQ at this time, and this year, that's a big chunk at $703. And then the M1 mix is small. I did treasuries last year, so this interest is just a little mini tick, but the point of this is I had barely gotten into VMFXX compared to what I am now. A lot of our cash was in treasuries, which we were paid the interest up front in 2022 at the time I bought it. I had a ladder going. So this is a little deceptive. But the bottom line is, you can see with JEPQ and the money market, it put us up to a juicy $1,200 in May. And if you look at the year to date so far, you have $10,356. Not too shabby. We're almost halfway to competing with last year. And last year had this big SCHD dividend in December. So I think we're going to crush it. Now it's time for the moment of truth. Portfolio performance. It's time to compare the performance of my mix against that of the S&P 500. And we'll also compare it to VT, which is the total world stock market. It's like the VTI of the US, only for the entire world. Let's go. We're out on Portfolio Visualizer, which has always been my favorite site for backtests. And as I mentioned last week, they've made some changes. A lot of the functionality is now behind a paywall, but I am in the process of getting my affiliate link, I think. So I'm still on the free version. We're going to make this work for this month, and next month I should have the paid version. And I want to just say real quick, we'll be able to check out the HODL factory in full details because I'll save that portfolio to this. So the members already have access to the spreadsheet where I update weekly all the HODL factory stats and how it's comparing to the market. But on these monthly videos, I'll be able to show everyone all the deets. So it's going to be really fun. But for now, for this one, we're pulling in as much as we can. Again, with the free version, it's only going to let us go from 2015, unfortunately. I put in some numbers to roughly mimic my portfolio. Don't worry about the details here, but we started with 175 since we can't go back quite as far, contributing 3K a month. And then we're reinvesting dividends, of course, and displaying income, yes. So when we come over here, this is all slightly different. I'm still getting used to it. I have my mix, VU, and VT. You can see my mix here, and I am doing the half and half of QQQ and VGT for growth, even though I'm currently VGT, which has done better. So this makes me look worse, but I want to show what I'm moving forward with. And then of course, VU is 100% and VT, you can barely see it, probably is 100%. So that's our criterion. Let's get into this thing. All right, I had to stop the video. I'm still getting used to this new layout. It's a little trickier on the recording, but I think I have everything on the screen so we can see everything moving forward. So it looks a lot different. As I mentioned last week, here's the performance summary, some of the same information. So we started with the 175,000 of each. We put in 3,000 a month. And as you can see, my mix has roughly what my portfolio value is. Not exactly, but close enough, which is 1.354. And VU, the market, would have had us at 1.193. And VT, the world market, would have had us at 952,000. So my mix has definitely been a blessing in the last decade or so. You can see the time-weighted return and money-weighted return are the highest for my mix, but we'll get into the return data down below. The standard deviations are really close. You want this smaller. The bigger the number, the more volatile it is. Best year, I win. Worst year, we're the best. So we have the best and the best of that. Max drawdown's very similar. You want these sharp and Sortino's high. We're pretty much better across the board so far. And I'm probably already going a little long here, but sometimes I like to show that the portfolio growth, you can see where the dark blue bar, they go together. When the market does well, we do well. When the market does poorly, we do poorly. Because when you use factor investing, you're basically the market and then you try to recreate a little better version of it. But it's not like you're gambling in the sense that you'll go way down when it doesn't and vice versa. You try to incrementally beat it. And speaking of incrementally beating it, here's our returns. We're the dark blue, the market's green, and VT is gray, I guess. So you can see in 15, we outperformed them. Same with 16, same with 17. In 18, we damage controlled a little better than both. We won in 19 and in 2020, same story. Ooh, we just won in 2021. This QQQ, I'm telling you, it's hurting my BFF VGT, it would have had us looking better, but I like the balance. But we still won. And then, ooh, we scooched by there as well. We took the win in 2023. And so far this year, we are not winning. Ouch. Okay, VU, I see you. And this is, again, how it was last year. So we'll see how the rest of the year turns out. But the thing that I want to point out, though, is look how similar these bars are, you guys. And I'm talking about VU and us, not necessarily the world market. We will need to add international eventually. That reversion to the mean will happen, and I'm constantly watching it. But we're just doing what the market does, just a little better on the highs and the lows. So we'll see if that can continue. Right now, we're not looking very smart, are we? Whoops. Okay, and here on the trailing returns, again, this doesn't care about the money being averaged in. This is just the straight up returns. You can see my mix and VU are really neck and neck. We're ahead by 0.02%. I told you I'd smoke it in the last 3 years because this year is helping it. In the last 5 years, we're 17.92 to 15.7. Again, pretty close, but a compounded 2.2 0.22% is a lot over the years. I mean a ton. You can use my portfolio projector to check that out a little bit. And the world market's down there at 11.75. And then over the full duration, almost a decade, we're at 14.53 to the market's 12.5. We still have that 2% lead, which again is big numbers as you saw above over time. And VT has been struggling at 9.1%. And for the portfolio income, we started the lowest, but as you guys probably know by watching my videos, we have really good dividend growers, and as the time goes on, we are outperforming both the market and the world market. And we're at basically 20,000 divvies a year by 2023 in this scenario, and they're at 15,000 and 17.3 for the world respectively. Not too bad. Okay, this is some new cool information. It shows like our weighted expense ratios, 0.08%. QQQM, the one I actually hold, but it doesn't have the historical data, helps it a little at 0.15 instead of 20 basis points, but still, it's probably 0.07% maybe, close enough. This is the interesting thing though. I like seeing the PE ratio. You can see SCHD is a pure value play. It's like, DGRO and VIG for context are like around 20, but you have SCHD at 16. VGT is a little higher along with QQQ, but you can see VU here, which is the competition. It's obviously the same as the one down below is VU. It's at 24.4. So we're actually at a little bit more of a value tilt compared to VU at 24.06. I found that a little bit interesting. It seems like the portfolio is so YOLO and like growth oriented, but at the same time, the SCHD keeps us in check. It's been holding us back, but it'll also be the savior when things come crashing down. Looking ahead, I'm planning on selling 150 shares of VGT. I know, it's my favorite ETF, so I can start my position in QQQM. And this will still leave me with 500 shares of VGT. It's not going anywhere ultimately. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be selling my JEPQ once it hits 1 year old, and I'll be putting those funds into QQQM as well. I want an even mix of QQQM and VGT within the growth section of my portfolio long term. And it's gonna take a while to get there, but I at least gotta get this thing rolling a little bit. Thanks for watching another portfolio update. My mission here is to help you reach your version of financial freedom. I like to show that I practice what I preach. We can win this simple game together. Check out one of these two videos if you want to keep carving out a brighter financial future. Thanks for watching, and I will see you here next Sunday. Peace.